Together. El Cologne.
I'm in the love of the Lord, and all of it in me.
I am part of the all, and the all is a part of me.
I am one with the all, and the all is one with me. I can be the part of the all, and share of the individual. I can be all that I wish to be all, and all that I wish to stay in all. I am never alone. The all is, I am. The all can, I can. The all does, I do.
Y'all repeat after him. That's my hip hop. Y'all repeat after him.
And El Ashur Shir. El Kulum.
Say it again.
And El Ashur Shir El Kulum.
Every week we're going to do a verse that everybody knows it in the Word. Because you gain the meaning. I am in the love of the all, and all love is in me. So once we get that, you got it down pat in English, you should. So now we're going to step into the Wapi. So we're going to come in here, we're going to say, and doctor, okay? We're going to start off. That's how you're going to get to learn. That's the first verse. We're going to keep hearing it until we get it down pat. Okay, y'all?
Say it loud one more time.
Say it again. Let's go.
Y'all ready? Loud. Any Dakhel. El Ashur Shir. El Kulum. Land. So, Bruce.
Yes. Great. Okay, right.
He's saying that it's a host that they have like a set, it's really a set that will have these people supposed to look like they're flying to the moon or whatever.
Right.
So it's like that.
What happened was in the early 80s, in the latter part of the 70s, Malachi always instructed us that the landing on the moon was a hoax, being that they took a movie set on a beach in a certain part of this country and filmed a whole segment of this fictional event that happened, meaning that man landed on the moon here in America. What happened was he showed us through the film how the flag was waving. There was a movie called Capricorn 1 where they depicted it all this was a hoax. And before the movie, Malachi was showing us how the flag was waving. There was little dust pebbles rolling around. There was, according to how the moon is structured, it's not supposed to be an atmosphere around, so that eliminates the wind. Just blowing around if you're walking around. And you can see that it was a fictitious story. And he told us this constantly that there was no such thing until they came out. And he was just telling us certain things like, in those days, you could hear they made the difference between this is a giant step for mankind and a great step for man. In other words, it was to separate who is man and who is mankind on the planet. But what happened was when they actually went to the moon, with Russia in there, when they first landed there, what they found was flags of German flags. You can see where there was a moon-based operation going on, something they don't tell y'all. And Malachi always pointed out to us how, when you see all these things going on about the German flag and the moon bases, it goes to show you when you read your holy tablets, you can see how when the Anunnaki came here and they started with the experiment of Homo erectus or Cadmus, as the face here shown on moon today called Sidonia, or the face of the moon, you can see how they constructed this Homo erectus on Mars and moved to the moon where they were building other shuttlecraft in order to go from the moon to Earth, to mine gold here on Earth and bring it back to the moon where they were stored in cylinders in shuttlecraft and then taken back to the mirror and taken back to Earth. And at the same time, they were having experiments of Homo erectus on Mars. And that laboratory was moved from Mars and perfected in a laboratory called Shinti here on Earth. It's in the inner bowels of the planet. So when you start dealing, that's why I Mission Earth, he gradually told us how all these things exist today. And it's nothing new for them to tell you that they're all of a sudden sending up crafts to Mars when they've been doing it. You follow? And if you've been following us, what they've done within this past year, 96, they sent a missile craft up to Jupiter with a certain bomb on it so they could deplete the area and gases around Jupiter to formulate an atmosphere. Gas station or elements conducive of breathing for humans to live on the planet. And they sent this. And now all of a sudden, if you go to your internet, and you start reading in your newspapers, you find out how they have Jupiter missions now, surveys of Jupiter. The fact that Jupiter got a little water on it, and it has a little land on it. They plan on trying to go live on Jupiter. They know what time it is. They know they won't be able to stand under the sun. Like I gave you all the other week. If you go to the Philadelphia Inquiry, December 8, 1996 edition, on page 810, you can see where they're telling you how the sun is constantly having storms on it, and these storms will affect you here on this planet, bringing in of the sun cycle. This is their time, and they know it. So what they're doing is, if you go ahead and research the news, like we tell you every week, and you start doing some research, you'll find out they have a big, like I mentioned earlier, they have a big space station, and as I found out last night, browsing through the net, they plan on building another. So they're shuttling all the scientists and the mathematicians and people who work out. And it doesn't matter if you're Nubian, Caucasoid, it doesn't matter if you're Edomite, it doesn't matter about color, Hindu, as long as you have the knowledge, you're of worth. And they're trying to shovel them to the craft. That's why Papa always told us that if you don't have any worth in your intellect, you're not worth nothing in the universe. I don't care how much money you have, because you know in this day and time we're living in a new world order, money is becoming obsolete. If you don't have any gold behind you, you can forget them dollars. And it already happened in this planet. And the history of this country, and I'll tell you how. In the Civil War, after the war was fought and the so-called slaves were set free, they gave you big bags of money, correct? They said, now you can go wherever you want, and we're going to promise you a mule and 1,000 acres, and we're going to give you all this stuff. Here's a big old bag of money. I'll see you later, brother, right? Now everybody went north, trying to buy things, trying to spend their money. What happened? Who won? Who won? The North. And the North was called who? The Union. So the Union won, and the Confederacy lost. What was the money they gave the poem slaves? Confederate money was worth what? Nothing. In this day and time, Malachi's constantly showing up. We also have a war going amongst themselves. You can see that in common. You can see how they slap Newt Gingrich upside their head if you keep up with the news. You can see how they try to badger Clinton. First they couldn't get him on receiving some money in the White House, right? Then they said, well, we'll stick the usual on him. Oh, this girl got raped when he was a governor. He ain't a governor no more, he's the president. The same old game. But they're having a war, as he taught us last year, amongst the Congress, amongst his government. They're warring. They're having some problems. Now, the New World Order's in, and it's the car that is the union money today. And all your paper dollars in the future is going to be the Confederate money. I don't care if you got 20 million money. $20 million in money ain't going to mean what? No. You follow what I'm saying? So it's the same thing all over again. Get back to the point. So they're taking people of value up to the space shuttle because they know what time it is. Right. They know the sun cycle is in. You follow? And if you don't stay with us, and try to get yourself together by putting something up here, by aligning yourself up physically and mentally. You follow what I'm saying? You yourself are not going to be worth nothing. You will be subjected to how they're going to build a new world order. And that is by you have the rich and the poor Now, the rich will use you as a part of their property. If a scientist, a mathematician, an engineer in building, if he's on his way to death, they will go into their concentration camp called projects or prefabricated houses, snatch you up, because you won't be able to hide, because everybody's going to have a computer in their house. They'll be able to trace you, and for those that got the chip in them, they'll just bring up your number and find you on a big screen. There he is, hot. They'll take you and use you for body parts to sustain somebody that's more important. That's the time we're living in, and that's what we're heading for. You follow what I'm saying? Our knowledge, right knowledge, Nuwapo, speaking Nuwapian as we Nuwapians are supposed to, we will have some kind of work in the universe. Hopefully, we will be able to enter into the own ancient and mystical order of Melchizedek. You will be in the order of Melchizedek if you keep on staying with the Lamb. If not, you can't blame nobody but who? Yourself. You follow what I'm saying? Because right now we're living in a day and time when 1997 is going to be very rough. And as you can tell here in Boston, it ain't cold. It ain't freezing. They gotta be something worse than that. It's worse than freezing. Now is this weather for Nubians? So now if you help us build, we'll help you build so that somebody else could be doing this while we get out of here. You understand what I'm saying? But this ain't no weather for no Nubian man, or woman, or child. Follow what I'm saying? So please, don't play games with people. Just tell them the truth. And if they don't want to hear it, don't waste your time. Go to somebody that wants to hear it. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Okay.
The circle around Jupiter, I think, or Jupiter, Saturn, circle, is that a ring of planets?
Around Saturn, as you call it. The main, when you draw a side of Saturn, as they claim, you'll find that there is a ring around it. That ring is made up of planets and asteroids. That's what makes it look like that ring around it. Inside of it is the planet known as Titan. Scientists call it a moon. So around it are many planets and asteroids. And around Titan are many gas stations. A lot of gas. The planet is known as Titan. But they call the whole circumference Saturn. You follow what I'm saying? These are where this disagreeable Elohim reside, and this is where they came when they went into the essence of Canaan and gave birth to his wicked 11 sons. And where they manifest today as a living, breathing entity, known as the Amorite, Hittite, Horite, and all the rest of that. Not original creation, but a made man. Go ahead.
What's happening to our little children, like the younger generation, like 12, 13, that's coming up now?
In 1970, after the age of Aquarius, it was called, and the coming of our teaching God, Malachi, New York, to give us, as the Bible says, an extra half hour, which the extra half hour is up in the year 2030, by the way. It brought along a different soul, a stronger soul, because before 1970, the soul was very passive. We were doing we were doing like peace marches, and we were going along with the system far as if we go peacefully, we can overcome. Very, very, very tiresome, humble people. It didn't work. Not when you try to make a peace march and somebody's pouring forces of water that feel like tons of bricks hitting you out of a water hose and sticking their dogs on you. That wasn't going to work. So as 1970 came about, it gave birth to a different soul, a stronger soul, a warrior type soul. But what happened was, as me and the brother was talking earlier, when sound gets to you and it messes up your frequency, it makes you lesser from a 9 ether being down to a 6, down to less than that. And the devil seen the Luciferians, seen how these souls were being strong, because these kids today, they don't take no crap like we did. They'll stand up to you quick. They ain't hearing. But instead of them being turned the right way, they put punk rock into the rap music and steered our children away from them. Got them in the direction of them, towards the Lucifer. If we can guide them back to us, for a guy that doesn't go through the educational system, have to stand there and rap for 3 hours and don't miss a beat, and he hasn't went to any like linguistic classes or any English classes, and he can stand there and don't forget nothing, by the way, as he's rapping, don't miss a beat and just be on it. Imagine how he would sound teaching you right knowledge. You follow what I'm saying? Our job now for you and all you young people here is to steer our children back to the way of our knowledge, in the right knowledge, in Nuwapo. Because it would be a fantastic thing to see children rapping Nuwapic in the right knowledge. You know how that would look? You follow what I'm saying? That's the course our children need to go. Instead of us fighting the rap world, let's get in there and let's teach them. As if you look at such groups as Daylight Soul and Buns American and Paul Right and Teach. I don't know about it. You gotta watch it. You guys out of Jersey, right? They got a lot of 5% in them. It's alright now. We gotta see them right with the right knowledge. But other such young groups, we gotta get to them. And y'all can do it. But they look at me like grandpa, right? Hey, look at this guy. Yeah, no hair, y'all gray. I want you, or you can get to them quick. You follow what I'm saying? And you sisters. So you take this right knowledge and feed our young, because right now they are the warriors. You follow? And they don't take no crap, so they'll be able to help all our young people. And that's what you got to take out with this message. Take it to the young. They'll listen to you. I can hear it in the rap words. They'll listen to you. They know what time it is. All we got to do is go hit them with it. And it can be done. You follow what I'm saying? And they're turning this way. Believe me. Look at all these young people here today. They're turning this way. Because they realize in their soul this is the truth. That's it for y'all today, right? We leave early, right? Huh? Huh? Oh yeah, you just got here, right? Let me show you something. When you talk about a language, right? You're talking about understanding places, people, and culture. When you try to define the difference between a written language and a spoken language, it puts in your mind places and tribes of people. You have your ancient languages known as Kadmonic. Let me spell it for you. Kadmonic, or K-A-D-M-O-N-I-C. Kadmonic, thank you. Ugaric, Akkadian, Mesopotamian, Chaldean, Aramic, Syriac, Babylonian, etc., etc. All of these are spoken languages of the language called cuneiform. And this is only what they call the Semitic family. And don't forget, there is Sanskrit, which bred many other tongues. If you were to take the time and look through the word Mesopotamian in any American dictionary, you will find out that the word Mesopotamia is the ancient region of the southwest of Asia. It's between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in modern-day Iraq, probably settled before 5000 BC. This is the area where the home of the numerous early civilizations were, including Sumer, Akkad, Babylonian, and Assyria. It declined in its importance after Mongol invaders destroyed its extensive irrigation system in the year 1258 AD. It confirms that Mesopotamia was the home of the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and the Assyrians, who spoke Akkadian, which we will prove that Assyrian is Syriac. They have their own script, and they use cuneiform as their written script. However, Syriac was their spoken script. Akkadian Akkadian is a native or inhabitant of ancient Akkad, and the Semitic language of Mesopotamia in this sense also called Assyrian. It tells you right in an American dictionary that Akkadian was the Semitic language of Mesopotamia. And it was also called Assyrian, which you will also find in American dictionaries when you look up the word Assyrian. And if you look at the word Chaldean, it also tells you that it's a member of an ancient Semitic people who ruled in Babylonian times. So the Babylonians spoke Chaldean. However, they also used cuneiform, which can be found in various encyclopedias. The next is Ugaritic, which also belongs to a Semitic family, as you can find again in an American dictionary as well. Ugaritic, it is the Semitic language of Ugaritic. The point is, all of these different tongues all stem from the same language, which is why they are referred to as the Semitic languages. They all originated from cuneiform. When you say the word Semitic, you are saying Shem, who was the son of Noah. That is where it starts, with a man named Noah, who according to the Bible, in Genesis chapter 10, verse 1, he had 3 sons, name them, Ham, Shem, and who else? Japheth. And according to the Quran, had another son named Rhea, who decided he didn't want to get on the ark or the craft with him, and he could make his way up to the top of the highest peak to decide all the water, but when he got there, what happened? He what? He drowned. So, if you go to the Quran, the 11th chapter, the 42nd verse to the 43rd verse, it'll tell you about Rhea. However, let us stick to the oldest record, because the Bible was before the Quran. This Noah, who was also recorded in the Gilgamesh epic, this was a tablet written in the cuneiform script, was known as Utnapishtim. If asked what language was the name Utnapishtim, the word they would have to rely on would be one of the languages that they couldn't come about until later generations. Genesis chapter 10 makes that clear. It lists the sons of Noah's son, starting with Japheth. This is in Genesis chapter 10, verses 2 to 5, which speaks of the sons of Japheth, which will also include the daughters. The next place is in Genesis 10:6, where it speaks of Ham and his sons and daughters. Now, this Ham had a son by the name of Cush. This is also in Genesis chapter 10, verse 6, who gave birth to Nimrod. Genesis chapter 10, verse 8 and 9. Mind you, all these people are dark-skinned, olive tone, or what you might call nappy-head people. Look up the meaning of Cush and Ham if you have any doubt. Ham, Shem, and Japheth were all Nubians. So don't let them try to tell you that Noah's 3 sons were different and with 3 different races. Noah was black, his wife Nama was of the same family, black, and his sons were black. Alright, let's move on. So Nimrod establishes Babylonia, and the language of the Babylonians were Chaldean. And Abraham was born in Chaldea. He was born as a Chaldean. He was not a Muslim. He was a Babylonian by belief and a Chaldean by language, which was Syriac, from Ashur. And Abraham's God was Ashur, according to the American dictionary, because Ashur means the principal Assyrian deity. Ashur, the son of Shem, you can look this up in Genesis chapter 10, verse 22, produced Syriac, which produced Arabic. Yet, Syriac is a dialect of Aramic, from Aram, the son of Shem. Also in Genesis chapter 10, verse 22, because whoever was the prominent man in that tribe, they named everything after him. And Ashur and Aram was the most prominent men amongst their time if you go back and read the 10th chapter of Genesis, the 22nd verse. And Aram, who was the son of Shem, produced Eber, the son of Selah, which is in Genesis 10:24, which produced Hebrew. So now you have all of these biblical names such as Adam, Enoch, Seth, Cain, Abel, and a list of others that they claim are Hebrew names before Hebrew even existed, because they were copied from older tablets and brought into Hebrew. What was the language of those tablets before it was Hebrew? or Arabic, or Chaldea, or Akkadian, or Ugaric, what was the language that they were speaking that had a script that is now found and called cuneiform? Our point as Nuwapian is, being that cuneiform was an ancient language, it was called Nuwapic, which had a script which became known as cuneiform on earth. And it was the script that all of the later languages get their stories that shape their Bibles and Quran. As we previously said, if asked what language it came from, they would say, I don't know. And if you ask them what was the language that the God and the angels discussed in the creation in the language they spoke when they came to earth, to divide the language on earth, as is in Genesis 11:2, meaning, remember when it was divided and all the language was messed up, and then that brought around Babylon and Nimrod? You know what they'll answer you? They don't know. What was the language that God was talking to an angel in Genesis chapter 1? Nuwapic. Muslims will claim it's Arabic. Jews will claim it's Hebrew. They are both wrong. Their books were recorded after the actual incident. Yet they do recognize that there was a script called cuneiform, and that Hebrew used the Phoenician script, and also Arabic used a form of Syriac script. Yet you will not find the word cuneiform in the Bible or the Quran. Yet all of the Bible and the Quranic languages use cuneiform. Both ancient Aramaic and Assyrian can be found written in cuneiform script, even in their Quran. Allah says that He revealed it to Muhammad in Muhammad's own tongue. That you can find in Quran chapter 44, verse 58. That was not Allah's tongue. Remember, He said, I'm going to give you a language that will make it easy for you to understand, Muhammad. He didn't put it in His language. He put it in the language that Muhammad recognized. And Muhammad was of the tribe of who? The Quraysh. And if you find out of the Quraysh dialect, because it wasn't a pure Arabic tongue. When He gave the revelation to him by way of Jibreel to Muhammad, he said, Iqra bisma rabbika alladhi khalaq. He said, Ma'ana biqariyan. I am not a like one. That is the Quraysh dialect. That is not what we tried to teach the Islamic world years ago by way of Arabic Fusa, a classical Arabic. He spoke a Croatian dialect by saying, Ma'ana biqariyan. He was supposed to say something else if he spoke the pure language. With that name, with that mind, Allah will be from Muhammad's own tongue and Muhammad's own language. And Muslims will admit that there was a deity called Allah that existed before Muhammad and was born and was used in his language and tribe. What is the point? That there is factual evidence, if we search, that the script being called cuneiform was indeed a language spoken by the gods and the angels before the birth of your Semitic languages. Because remember, Semitic only goes back to Shem. This is where the word Semitic comes from. Shem, who was the son of Noah. The Muslims create their own spelling in Arabic for Hebrew names in the Quran from the Torah and pretend that their meaning of the name is correct, such as Abraham in Genesis 11:26, and then when you go to Quran 11:69, they tell you it's Ibrahim. Enoch, Genesis 4:17, over to Idris in Quran 19:56. Jethro, Exodus 3:1, over to Shuaib in Quran 9:85. Then Noah in Genesis 5:29 to Noah in Quran 71:21. The name Noah in Hebrew means to light down upon, to rest upon something. Lay down upon, or to rest upon something. When Noah in Arabic means to weep. A totally different meaning. They literally take a word like ru'ah from soul in Hebrew, change the last letter with the kha to a ha when they have a kha in Arabic. They did the same thing with the word nefesh, or spirit in Hebrew, and nefesh in Arabic. See, you have nefesh and nefesh. They took the same word, but they destroyed the spelling. It's an intentional alteration to change the root, so you won't be able to trace back to its own origin. They would admit in the Quran and the Torah was divinely inspired by God, who they call Allah. Thousands of years before the Quran, in Quran 365 and 546, they and then imply that the stories in the Quran are not borrowed from the Torah. Everything the Quran gets comes from the Torah, because nothing in Islam is original. If it is, please name it. It can't be what they call the here or the Tars, because they got it from the Kufi or from Kufu. If you study how Ali left Muhammad at his bedside to protect the original Quran that he had, while they was all huddling around Muhammad to see who was going to be the leader, and picking through Abu Bakr and Uthman and all the rest of them, Ali took it upon himself and went to Kufa, and which he had it translated into Kufic. You follow what I'm saying? Nothing that they have in Islam is original. And they ignore that there must be a language in Jannah that Allah and His angels speak. And it couldn't be one of the languages created by human beings being born in Genesis chapter 10. So again, we put before you the fact that men named that script cuneiform or cuneiform and borrowed it with an individual tongue. And that it was indeed the language that the God and the heavenly host spoke and communicated in before the birth of earth dialect. That influenced their scriptures. Now, Malachi is putting before you that these Sumerian deities called Anunnaki and cuneiform became your Elohim. They went from Anunnaki to being called Elohim. Then Nephilim, Gaborim, Kachina, Nitiru, Genuine, Malaika, Angelo, Heavenly Host, what you have, right? And that their language was Nuwapic with a script that you presently call cuneiform. Try to remember some of that. So that when you stand up before these people telling you that cuneiform was a script and not a language, you got some proof. You can go back to the ancient Akkadian, Mesopotamia, and show you those were languages all stemming from this root. Go ahead, brother.
Wow, that was pretty deep. Shalom.
Shalom.
You said that was in Surah 44, where
44:58.
44:58. Help me out with this here, I'm confused. I thought that was Jibril when he says, Ya Jibril, ma'ana beka.
That's Muhammad talking to Jibril. Jibril, here was that Muhammad, I'm Jibril. Yeah. Ikra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Muhammad's answer was, ma'ana beka. I'm not a learned man. I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't that he couldn't read. He could read. He was not learned in certain tonations of talking. So what he did was Allah said, well, I'm going to make it in your language to make it what? Easy for you, Muhammad.
This is what I want to know. Where did Allah step in at that point in time?
No, that lie had Allah, all Allah, here's where Allah steps in. Because at the time, you got to go back to the original story. And this is what the original story contains. The Jesuits, they were the ones that were going around the world trying to find out where they can next put their doctrine. And when they put their emphasis on the outer world, at that time, the Arabs were known as the world or the era of Jahalahina, age or era of ignorance. Very stupid people. I'm calling a spade, as you know what they say. So what happens is they needed some guidance. Wadaka, who was learned in the Torah, who was a Christian, and he was of that family line of the Catholicism, the Catholic Church, because that's where the Jesuits were coming through. He took it upon himself with his niece, known as Khadijah, to formulate a plan of getting Muhammad learned in the Torah to make Muhammad a prophet for those people.
How did they pick Muhammad right there after that point?
Because Muhammad was a respected man. He was an honest man. He was what you would call a manager of business. He had honorable trade. He was very, very respected in that land, in the family of the Quraysh. Because of the businesses that he did, he was very respected. And they picked him because of his nobility, of his respectability, of his honor. Because she married him at a young age. He was 25 and she was 40. So they picked him. And as picking him, Monica had to tell him, Muhammad, you're a prophet. And he took this word from the word Nabi, that is from another language as usual, from our language as usual. So as they borrowed that, they made him a prophet. And the Pope, the Vatican, all these people got together to write what you call today the Quran. Here's where Allah steps in. They plan the plan, and the real Allah, not Master Fard Muhammad, not Clarence 13, not Oral Roberts, not all these guys confessing to be what they're not these clowns, but the real Allah, and Ali, the Most High, in Arabic known as the best of names, he stepped in. They planned the plan, and Allah planned the plan, and Allah is what? The best of plan. Allah stepped in and did what? Made him a prophet. Made him a new vessel. Brought revelation to the people. By way of a man that was before him, by the name of a man by the name of who? Yeshua. That's why the Quran, as they say, glorifies Yeshua so much. Because it was Yeshua that said, I'm going to send the world Ahmed to do what? To reprove the world of righteousness and sin. Because y'all ain't listening to me and I got to go. So I got to send another comforter like me, to comfort, we always need comfort. I got to send another one to reprove the world of righteousness and sin. Because I'm trying to talk to y'all and y'all are not bearing witness to me the same way everybody is. But let me make this point clear. Did the people want to listen to Jesus? No. Did the people, Israelites, want to listen to Moses? No. Did the people want to listen to Muhammad? No. Do the people want to listen to Rabboni? Malachi, Imams, whatever you want to call them. At this day and time, is the world listening to Malachi Z. York? They're doing a little listening. They're not bound to the credit. Malachi Z. York is in some good company. Because no matter who comes, they never want to listen to you. They always put you up for persecution. You follow what I'm saying? The only reason why Farrakhan gets some flack because he got to be noticed. Because if you don't hear him talk, now what's Farrakhan doing now? Tell me now. What books he put out? What tapes he put out? What instructions he put out? What way of life he's paving for us as a people? Can I hear something? What do I hear?
Islam.
I don't hear nothing. Because he has nothing to give. He's just like one of us. He needs to be instructed by the Lamb in this day and time. You follow what I'm saying? Now he's the one that brought you a what? What did they say Muhammad give you? A scripture. Right? What did they say Jesus brought to you? A scripture. What did they say Moses brought to you? A scripture. What is Malachi Z. York brought to you? A scripture. That is what? And it's here for when? The hereafter. Knowing that some of us are going to make it. You follow what I'm saying? Clean up your mind with a mind book. You understand what I'm saying? Let you know, showing the world where it's supposed to come from by way of El Quran. And you best believe, people, your next time you see me, you will have a Torah for the Israelites. You will have an Injil for the Christians. So we can settle this story about the 144,000 and Malachi will set the record straight. You understand what I'm saying? So get prepared, because you thought you had it with the books now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because you living in a day and time when you're going to see a new heaven and what? A new earth. In order to have a new heaven and a new earth, you got to have a new what? Mind. You got to have a mentality that alleviates you away from this spell of kingdom. This spell of the Leviathan. Get out of his spell. Get away from the serpent. You see snakes don't fly. I told you that before. Look at all the plane crashes. Get away from him. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm talking about him if he comes to you black, purple, green, blue, purple, whatever color he comes in, get away from him. You understand what I'm saying? All right. Now let's build some more. Y'all want to build some more? All right. You got a question? Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay, when the Nuniki was making Blue Avenue, I think he made a statement regarding the things of development.
I didn't hear you.
I think he made a statement. So, regarding the 3 days of development of making Blue Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay, he said the first 3 months, Italian or present. The second 3 months, the Mahdi is the present. The last 3 months, Elohim is the present. He said, so God against Hebrew by the Luciferian. So, he explained what those 3 developments are. The Nacatanians, the Sumerians, and then the Elohim the present. Then he says, what is the Luciferian?
You're getting out of the Holy Tablets. What page? While you're looking for it, right? Let me tell you something. Remember when I was just telling you about how the Pope and them got to organize this writing of the Quran?
Right.
Let me help you out a little more. It was also being influenced by Freemasonry. At that time, that was the world's contention of knowledge. What happened is, between the Torah, the Injil, and the Quran, they should have done a better job with their plagiarism, meaning that they took all of these stories from the books and the tablets of old. They got the dates wrong, places wrong, names of places wrong, and those that didn't know, they changed. I mean, Malachi's showing us things like they didn't know Abraham's father's name, because his name was Terah. So they named him after the dress Azar. They didn't understand that Abraham and Nimrod had nothing to do with each other. They were in different time zones. And we can go on and on. That's why earlier I was explaining to you, according to their Bible, not the truth. According to their Bible, they give you a story of, remember I told you, brother, I was giving you a story of Abraham and Nimrod. All these mistakes made, it wouldn't help you because you're dependent on Islam for your survival. That's what the Arab world is doing. And most likely, they're using Islam as a source of income. And like the Christian preacher who depends on his congregation, you don't really want to know the truth. There's literally thousands of inconsistencies, and it was a poor plagiarization, and now in this computer age, all of it is coming to light. You can't fool it when you jump on that computer. Before the computer, when people could put the Quran in the computer in Arabic and English and analyze it word for word, the Muslim world looked good. But not nowadays. Nowadays, it's easy to cross-check information in computers. Moses' name was not Musa. The name Moses in the Torah is from the Egyptian word Moses. His name was what? I told you his name every week. What was his name? Adonijah. And that is what was given to him on the 8th day of his circumcision. You have to study Hebrew and Hebrew doctrines through Aramaic and Cyrillic. Travel as Malachi has done, and research as he's done to find out that the religion that so many people loved as children is not factual and consistent with world-known facts. Please don't be mad at us, because we all woke up too. Remember, we were striving Muslims. And you haven't felt as sorry for you as you do or should be for us. Because we taught this.
You got it.
Okay, what page?
Page 172.
172.
Chapter 451.
What verse?
Yeah, 51. 451, chapter 451.
Inky said, well, let's go, wait a minute. Okay. The mixing of the clay with all the components, extract, and essence was not yet the end of the procedure. The egg of the eighth woman, fertilized in the purifying bath with the sperm and genes of the 7 young Anunnaki Elohim, was then deposited in a mold where the binding was to be complete. Enki announced to the gathered Anunnaki that his own spouse, Ninki, Lady of the Earth, had it volunteered for the task. Because Enki means master of the earth. So hers is the lady of the earth. Makes sense, right? Ninki, my spouse, he announced, will be the one for labor. Because she was going to be giving birth to this being that was supposed to come out. She was to be the one to be determining the fate of the new being. 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 Right? Okay. The newborn's fate you shall pronounce, Ninki, was fixed upon it the image of the Anunnaki. And what it will be is what? You memory. Not human. You memory. The female Anunnaki chosen to serve as birth to the Anunnaki if the experiment succeeds. Enki said one should stay and observe closely, for in the first 3 months the Nakashians are present. In the second 3 months, the Ramadians are present. But in the last 3 months, the Elohims are present. So God against the thievery by the Luciferians, those disagreeable Yahweh, keep a watchful eye over what would happen. Let me see that. A woman is geared upon birth in a 9 to 10 month span. Upon the first 3 months, in the development of this thing called a fetus, as you read, you have the first 3 months are the Nakashians. That is a reptilian. You follow what I'm saying? The first 3 stages is a reptilian. You're in your mother's womb, breathing, living in what? A water sack. You're going to tell me you can't breathe on the water? You did it in your mother's womb. Why can't you do it today? Why can't you? Hey, people, you still breathing water. Water is made of what? What does oxygen consisted of? Oxygen is a densified water. It's just a little densified. It's more thinner. Still breathing in the same elements as water. Because we don't use our tonsils anymore, that was our guilt. Well, you don't have a barometer gland either. That helps a lot too. Because you don't have the use of your tonsils, that was your breathing gill. That's why the tonsils have no use right now. So, getting back to the point. You had the first 3 stages of the reptilian. Your next stage, as your head gets bigger, start looking like this in your mother's room, correct? With a little smile. You got a big old round head with some big eyes. If everybody went around their eye socket, go ahead, everybody go around their eye socket. And you go around your eye socket, that's really how big your eye is supposed to be. You see how big them eyes are? And at that point in the mother's womb, you got some big old eyes. And a big head bigger than your body, that is the stage of the Ramadi. The last 3 months, you're going through the stage of what? As the Holy Tablet says, right here. But in the last 3 months, the Elohims are present. So guard against the thievery of the Luciferians, because if they can snatch that baby, just like today they're doing. There are people, women, listen to me women, there are women who tell you that they have been pregnant. And they can wake up the next day and the baby's gone. Like going to the hospital a month before and the doctor says, you know you're pregnant? Come back 2 months later, the baby is gone. That's how sophisticated the Luciferians have gotten. They can snatch the baby right at the womb. And if you look at the first 3 months, that's when they need it as a reptilian. Up to a perfect being that they can instruct in the last 3 months. That's why it's telling you right now, guard against them. Now let's go on. The first Anunnaki was kept together. Nick, that was it?
Before you go there,
that was it?
That was it, but I got some more.
Well, you got some more.
Yeah. Explain one thing before you go further.
That's it, because he got it explained. I just wanted to read it first to let you see.
You said God against the Luciferians.
Exactly right.
So does that mean that your body has to be at a certain
No, that means you gotta.
Mind.
That means a woman has to be mindful of her pregnancy. Stop running to the Luciferians. They're in the hospital, you know. That's where they are. Just wait. The same people, there's a ritual when we do this out of Hebrews we did, where once a baby was born, the man was there with such words for the protection of this child. You can find these words in the book of life. And we were to take the placenta and bury it next to the home. As it says in the book of Psalms, you teach the child a certain way and you'll never depart from them teachings. That placenta was part of the child and the mother has to go back where you were. You know what the Luciferians do? Wait a minute now. They take the placenta for what? The placenta is a delicacy around the world. Do you realize this? You think they eat their little caviar and their crackers? They eat somebody's placenta. A fact. It's a delicacy amongst these beings. That's why you got to guard against them. Don't run to the hospital for any other thing. He's just waiting for you. Hey, we got another one, Joe. If you had looked at all the tapes, there was a tape that Malachi showed where doctors operated. He had a little devil with a pitchfork in his hand running up and down his arm. And that's what you give yourself and your child to when you take chances of going there. That's where they lay and dormant. Now go ahead.
My question here. It says that in the tablets that the Anunnaki speeded up our evolution, you know, to make Lulu-Amalu, right? So I'm trying to understand what was the whole purpose of our evolution in the
to work for the Anunnaki, because the planet was getting ready to be destroyed because of the conflict between Enki and his brother Enlil. Neither one of them asked Anu for permission for this experiment. And they included their sister, Ninti, and in association with their brother, Nergal. And they went to formulate a being that could work the mind, how you say it? The minds of South America today. That's what Manadapa and Zimbabwe.
Talking about before that.
That was the development because they was having a war. Because Enki was taking the gold and he was partying with it, and he made a city by name of his name because his name was Nidimba. Enki just a title meaning of the earth, master of the earth. Nidimba shortened it to the land of Nod, where he built a recreation park and a city named after himself, Nud, in which he was taking the gold and he was misusing it. Enlil came down to find out what was going on, seeing that he was misusing it, and they had a conflict. And the conflict was that you're not doing your job. And it was to the point where they was getting ready to fight and destroy this world. So what happened is they compromised. There was an Anunnaki by the name of Justice. He came to explain, look, everybody's dying, and they started revolting about the work because they're not used to doing such hard labor. So the compromise came before we kill each other through this revolt. Let's make a being to do the work for us. Once this being does the work, this being will be
before that
the of the planet.
You mean before that?
I mean, what do you want? They came down, they came out because there was a conflict. Look, ask the question. They're not answering the question.
In class before, you stated that man would be worth thinking about.
But see, now you're tying in different subjects. First you asked about the conflict and why Lulu-Amalu had to come about. Now you're asking something man wasn't even thought about. You're asking two different subjects, two different questions. Let's say with one subject.
No, okay.
Let's say with the Lulu-Amalu.
Okay,
go ahead.
Okay, not saying it.
But then everybody will be confused.
Okay, no, the point is that they're going back to say homogeneous, right?
See, you're bringing in different words.
Okay.
Now you're bringing in, wait a minute, now you're bringing in homogeneous. If you take the time and read humans created from, science of creation, you see how life started in the water with organisms that made their way through amino acids, tying in with certain acidification elements to bacteria, working their way to produce a protozoa. Now, if you want to go that way, you can go that way too, because Malachi covers everything. Which way do you want to go? Go that way. When the protozoa is developed, is right in that tablet you got. And I'm just repeating what the tablet is in there. And this tablet is in the book. What happens is the protozoa made its way to the metazoa, which started a branch of being. And once these branches of being took place, beings of the water made their way to the surface of the earth. And they were what you would call broken into mammals, correct? And other such beings, some went back to the earth because you have one called the whale. A whale made his way to the earth and made his way back to the water, and which he resides in the water today, known as a mammal, a warm-blooded creature that resides in the water. From this process of these beings coming back and forth, scientists today call some of them dinosaurs. One of the beings that came out of there, he became known as like a sort of dinosaur man. One that had the teeth that you have today, protruding teeth. You have your incisors, if I'm correct, and your, yes, say it again.
Incisors.
Right, incisors, and then they had flat teeth. A dinosaur that roamed the world like that had their protruding incisors and their flat teeth, which everybody has when you're sitting down. From these creatures developed creatures that were on all fours. It led into two groups, an orangutan and another one, I can't remember the name. No, there's another name for it. The one that was the intelligent monkey. The what? Walrus. The walrus was chosen. That's the eighth woman's seed that is spoken of in the Holy Tablet. The walrus was chosen because it was more of an intellect. This is the development going into homogenesis. Now, from them two species, the orangutan and the walrus developed into what you would call homogenesis. Once the issuing of the blood of the Anunnaki was placed inside, then this being became known as Homo erectus. He went from walking on fours to do what? Stand erect himself, to stand up. You follow? Because as they came down, as the Anunnaki came to earth, all they seen to them was gorilla-type beasts, behemoths, running around. There was no intellect until they got in. The same way like this is, in the creation of your sun, you have what you call 550 tons of hydrogen turning over the 500 million tons of helium and turning back into hydrogen to turn back into helium. Somebody had to step in and create that formula. And that's what the Most High did. He stepped in. The same way you have beasts roaming the earth, somebody had to step in and give this beast intellect. That's what made you after the likeness and the image of who? The gods or the Anunnaki. You follow what I'm saying? Now we can tie in. Now when you add your other stories, you can see how somebody would say, man is not worthy. As time goes on, another point comes up in Islam. Are you, one of the talking, one you don't even talk to another. Are you going to make one to shed blood in the earth again? Why? Because before this time of Adam and Eve, you had Lahmud and Laham. You had Tiamat and Apsu. Thank you. And these were conflicts that were happening. That's why at that point it said they were all, and if you go to the first chapter of Genesis today in the King James Version, and you look up the first chapter of Genesis, you'll find that it says, God has created the heaven and the earth, correct? Second verse. Now the earth has become void and desolate. What it means is that once you go to the fourth chapter, 28th verse of 28th verse of Jeremiah, you find that missing piece. There was a destruction happened on the planet. And once this destruction took part, the missing piece of verse 1 and 2 in between is in the story that's in Jeremiah chapter 4. I'm saying this to say you can see all the conflicts and destruction that happened for these names to come about. This is what I'm telling you. Once you read it, look at certain incidents and then try to tie them in. Don't try to tie them in as one incident.